And you're live.
Good morning, Summa scholars, and evening. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is April 28th, Monday, after the octave of Easter, still Eastertide.
That's what I hear.
Is that right?
Here.
Hello, Joe.
Hello.
So, we're back after the octave. You might notice, maybe some of you, that we are starting what could be conceived of as late. Joe called an audible. It's the penumbra. Okay, so we talked about the penumbra of Sabbath. This is the penumbra of the octave, which is an even bigger penumbra.
It is a big penumbra.
It's a bigger penumbra.
It's a real big penumbra.
So we decided that we're going to start later. 7:15 a.m. this morning. Okay, here's the thing. So Lent was a long, drawn-out journey through the desert. For me, it was stranger than any previous Lent I've ever had. And then the octave itself has been the strangest octave I've ever been through. No need to go into all the details, but suffice it to say, Teresa of Avila says that sometimes you have your Easter during Lent, and sometimes or Good Friday, and sometimes you have your Good Friday during Easter. I suppose I, and dare I say my friend Joe, on the Beaver Galleon, Easter was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
But also, it's like a nice view from the cross. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah. I thought about sending you that beam of that today.
Yeah, that would have been great. I would have appreciated it. It's a nice view from the cross, this octave.
Yeah.
We were also I was talking about, the whole being whipped and everything and making fun of and the crown of thorns, and then the walk, the athletics walk out to the crucifixion site, and then the nails through. That must be a difficult portion. But at least something's going on. At least something's...
Haley's here.
Oh, Haley, you're already here? Oh my gosh.
She surprised us a Monday afternoon stream.
So are we.
It is special.
What a bright light. Haley, that just lifted my spirits. Because we got to see Micah. So there's a lot to go through. We just got through an event.
This might be a long one.
This might be a long one. I'll try to make this a short one because honestly, I have not even looked at this page. And then today I was thinking, should I look through it? And I was like, no, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to fly.
From the hip, baby.
That's the spirit of where we're at here with this.
From the
I have no idea what we're talking about today. We'll see how the Lord leads. But we had an event this weekend, opening of a cigar lounge. Tons of people. People came from around the country. Catholic creators were there.
Yeah. And
then there were speeches by Matt Fradd. Matt Fradd's sister, Emma Fradd, played music, and she was amazing. She's an amazing guitarist. And, yeah, she does like... I saw it just as a combination of like some Black Sabbath, like major fifths, heavy, mixed with some world music, amazing guitar. That's a bad way to put it, but there's a certain way that world music does finger picking and things on guitar, and she was just exceptional at that. And and then there was also Scott Hahn gave a talk.
That's right. Yeah.
And then there were some other Catholic creators who, from what I could hear in the hubbub of the crowd, were well known, but I didn't particularly know them. So there was a lot going on, so that contributed to the beauty of the octave. There was a little respite, but the point I'm getting at is there comes a point on the cross where after all the excitement, you're just hanging there for a while. That's kind of been the sitch for me. I would say for you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, right. We're in a new trial.
This
is, and then the excitement. Oh, a new trial. Everything's changing. Things are going horrible.
But in like a really cool way,
Yeah, new. This is a new trial. What's going on?
The novelty was there.
The novelty. Now we're just like, okay, this is it for a while.
You're gonna break my leg soon, maybe.
This is it for a while. That's what the octave has been. But have to admit a sense of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I used to not, it's like there was a time when I wouldn't even want to admit that God's right and there's growth. But I've had such growth that I'm even like, okay, yeah, you're right.
You got me.
You got me.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay. So that's where we're at now. And as we come, but see, that's the beauty of the Daily Summa. We don't just make the videos when we feel like it.
Except for today.
But we still have to do it within the day.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because we would way not be doing this right now.
Yeah, we can't do Monday's stream tomorrow. That don't work.
Like if Trump came in and said, you each get, I don't want to do Trump, but you each get 3 million.
Yeah.
So let's say 10 million.
Three's enough.
3 is enough, actually.
3's enough. They'll do it.
You can do like the percentage that you would get off of just putting it into a money market fund.
Yeah.
It'd be cool. It'd be good. But if that happened, would we be doing this?
No.
How much do we love you guys? How much do we love? But see, then we go into contemplative prayer. Okay, it's not worth talking about. It's what ifism. But the point is, we're not back in the saddle. We're back on the galleon.
That's right.
It seems unreal. But we are back on the galleon. And actually, I felt it right before we went on. It hit me. It's like a show.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Boy, I've dragged into some shows. No bueno.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're there, the boys, let's go. First song, crowd. So that's what we're doing. Is there anything else we should mention, Joe? It's been a week or more. It's been 10 days.
It's been about 10 days. We
got to see Micah. That's the thing. Did I say that?
You said we got to see Micah. You didn't mention anything about it.
Yeah, Micah was he the first contributor, the first to give money on locals?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it was Micah, and then Steve was short behind. I think that's the order. Steve will have to forgive me if I'm stealing some valor here, but I'm pretty sure that was the order.
Did you say valor?
Yeah.
Nice use of the word valor, my friend.
You're very welcome.
So I think Micah was the first, and we got to see him in vivo. That was a real blessing. I've never had that experience. Like I've watched other people who do videos meet somebody. I've never quite had that experience, and it was joyous. And he was awesome. And we got to hang a couple times, like in the circle with having the pipes and chatting. It was great. But Haley, it'll be a joyous day when we can meet you in person also, because you're always there.
Indeed.
Like we turn it on, no announcement. I didn't do a locals thing. I didn't do a locals announcement.
Steve's gonna be shaking his fist at you.
I know. And he'll be right. But I couldn't get my hands I couldn't get my hands on the button.
Yeah, you gotta get the Romans to like lift it up with a stick so you can reach.
Yeah. So maybe we should just start, and whatever hits, we will stop and have a conversation. But it was a beautiful octave. I will say that so many things happened during the octave, even though that I was hanging on the cross. There were so many beautiful moments of Shire-like rejoicing. Like I wish all of you could experience. Because I remember what it was like for many years watching videos and not of people who were in community, like Catholic community. And I was not. And to be in that, so many dinners outside, beautiful tables spread, the light coming down, golden hour, kids running around, good food. Music around campfires, singing the Divine Mercy Chaplet around campfires, Christmas trees being thrown into the bonfire and it going up and over the cliff of the city with the Market Street Bridge lit up in the distance and twinkling lights of people below. So many moments of companionship, hugs, being in a sea of people and visitors, but seeing your bros that you always hang out with at the lounge together. So many amazing wives doing amazing creations, the food, the thought that went into everything, surprises. I remember rolling up yesterday, the last day of the octave. I think it was yesterday, the 8th day. I roll up to Andrew's house, and normally people are sitting on the porch, but there's a little hillock that goes down at Andrew's house. I don't know if I told you this or not. Did I? So I roll up at Andrew's house, and instead of everyone on the porch, there's the girls that live on the street. There's 3 girls that live in a house in the street behind, who are lovely. And then there was other lady friends, and Andrew and Kevin and his friend who's in going to seminary. And they're all sitting out on the hillock with the new birth of flowers that are coming up all over the deep, rich, new grass after this freeze. And the girls are all putting flowers in their hair, like beautiful flowing flowers. And they all have their Sunday dresses on, and they're all modest and funny and light, and the sun was shining. It was just such an, and of course Kevin with his hat and his tie and beautiful, and then people putting flowers in my hat, and also in previous parties, little kids coming up and decorating my hat with flowers. Just so many gorgeous moments during the octave. So like I said, it was a good view from the cross. Yeah. It was a good view from the cross. So let's see what Thomas has to say about life, love, this world that we're in, making our way back to our home, into the heart of the Eternal Father. Let's see if we can glean any wisdom here from Thomas. I'm just going to start at the top of the page. 161, we're on question 14, article 11, but we're finishing up just article 10.
You had to go look back to see if the previous article was article 10.
Are you saying I should have been able to do subtraction?
Just like
if it's 11, it should be 10?
I was thinking just 1.
Okay, so that was the bitter wine, the gall that they gave. To the effects of God, which he knows by his essence, and knowing them, he knows the opposite evils. Reply to objection 4. This is actually feeling good to get back in the galleon. 4 is Shimon, I think. No, Reuben.
Yeah.
To know a thing by something else only belongs to imperfect knowledge, if that thing is of itself knowable. But evil is not of itself knowable, because it's a deprivation of good. For as much as the very nature of evil means, oh, he just said it, deprivation of good. Therefore, evil can neither be defined nor known except by good. That was the thing we did with the paper last time. God knows evil in the sense that there's a hole in this paper, but you don't really, there's nothing to know. It's just an absence of paper. So you're not really knowing anything. You just know that there's an absence. We see things as being substantial because that is how God has constructed this game we're in, so that we can gradually come to know him and grow in interpersonal love and self-giving. If we could see all truth, if we could see the whole paper, which in the metaphor, if we could see all that God was, this is the classic rabbinic teaching that I rarely hear Christians say. Once we're reunited with our brother Yaakov, which means the Jews, once Esau is united to Yaakov, we'll get all of this wisdom that they have. But what they always say is, if you see the divine vision, you will immediately be attracted to it because of the nature of what God is. He is interpersonal love. So just think of the marital act, the marital relationship, or wealth, all the things they say in the book of Revelation when they talk about what the Lamb of God is worthy to receive. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and glory and blessing. Handel's Messiah. So that's the prophetic utterance from Isaiah, I think. So all of those things that you are attracted to in this life, wealth, blessing, honor, being glorified when you walk in the room and everybody's like, Joe, all that stuff we're attracted to. We want it. We wanted to do the things that will give that to us. That's why people spend a stupid amount of money for a car that has a logo on it, or a shirt that has a logo on it, so they can be like, oh, and receive glory, power, wisdom, blessing, pleasure, the pleasure of the Song of Solomon relationship with the beloved, lover and the beloved. All of that is the paper. That is the divine essence. If we saw it, we would immediately be attracted to it, just like we are in this life. And then, as the rabbis say, and then later Clement says it, Clement of Rome, Bishop of Rome, Clement after Peter, one of the early fathers, if you don't know. Clement said it, actually. I only read it somewhat recently. I didn't know that Clement had said the things that the rabbi said, but of course, he probably heard it from the apostles, who heard it from Hazal. Mm. But Clement said perfectly, and this is the whole crux of the matter, if you saw what was in God, you would immediately want it, so you would serve God for gain. You would serve God to receive that pleasure that is within him. And that would be the same as a man entering a whorehouse. You would be doing your good works just like a man gives money to a whore. And that cannot be abided in the divine relationship. That is the antithesis of the divine relationship. So God had to create this world in which he is hidden. And those who, even though everything looks bad, you still pursue the good. That's how the lover knows that he has a true beloved. And so that's the reply that Thomas is giving in a reply to objection 4, that God does not know evil in the substantial way, because evil is lack of being. But he is aware of the absences. But we see it as substantial, as something to go after. We have that's concupiscence. We have a distorted view of good. So we go after false goods. And through a gradual process, God waits for the one who looks for the true good. And then those become what is called in Scripture the elect. Those become the one in Scripture that is called the bride. That's the bride. My suggestion to you, become the bride. Seek after the true goods. Okay, Article 11, whether God knows singular things. Let's see what Thomas is saying. First up, back with Larry. Oh, I miss Larry. Are we able to put Larry's picture up, or is that too much of a...
I can't right now. I don't have that. Well...
We're just getting back on the galleon, guys. If we were on the galleon, the octave would be sort of like the captain saying, guys, let's just go into the captain's quarters. Let's just sit on the deck, break out some of the rum.
Yeah, right.
And sing some shanties and let the ship go wherever it will. Like if you're out on the abyss, you don't need to worry about running into anything in particular. So you just let the ship sail. And you sit back and have some relaxation time. That's what this octave has been. We got another one coming up on Pentecost. Don't forget.
Not too long, like 40, if you count today, 41 days.
Not many days hence.
Not many days.
All right. Objection 1, Larry. It seems that God does not know singular things. For the divine intellect is more immaterial than the human intellect. Now, the human intellect, by reason of its immateriality, does not know singular things, but as the philosopher says, reason has to do with universals, since with the singular things. Therefore, God does not know singular things. Boy, that's super convoluted. I forgot how messed up Larry is.
Do you want to just lay out what they mean by singular things? I assume it doesn't mean that this is a single thing and I can know it.
Yeah. So you have a universal, which is like humanity, like a substance, like humanness. And we had a question similar to that previously. And that's funny that I haven't studied this page, and this is one of the few times you've asked me to drill down on a particularity. But so humanness.
I want to do better at it. I want to try and.
Good. Humanness is a universal. Humanity or horsiness, and then there's a singular horse. So I'm trying to remember what the previous question was when it's like God doesn't know Joe. He knows like humanness, he knows vague. And this was a teaching, I think in Plato, that God knows he's so high up that he's not really connected with these lowers and these lower things. So he knows the universals of horsiness and humanness, but he doesn't know you as a particular person. And Thomas is wanting to say, I mean, he's probably going to say something about the divine essence, of course, but in that God is love. And so that he does know and love you in particular. All right. Therefore, God does not know singular things. That's Larry's objection, because God's knowledge is so universal. And we know things. Let's see, what does he say from Aristotle? Reason has to do with universals. Sense with the, so our senses know, my sense touches that paper, but then I immediately go paper. Paper is a universal concept, paperness. It has a different quality than a rock or something. So my sense, even if I had my eyes closed and you put it in my hand, you were like, what is this? From hearing it, my sense hears it, my fingers feel it, I feel the weight of it, and I would probably say paper.
You wouldn't taste it?
But if you put a rock in my hand, or if you put tobacco in my hand, tobacco. So my brain, my mind goes to universal. I understand paperness, and then I abstract paperness from this particular. But Larry is trying to say that God doesn't feel things. He doesn't feel things and smell things, so he doesn't know particulars. He just knows the big universals. And Thomas is going to say, nay, sir. You know what this reminds me of? Good story. That's a Domino's pizza guy, by the way. And I would love it if he was delivering that here. I haven't eaten pizza in like 5 years. But this reminds me of being at, this reminds me of a couple things, actually. But this reminds me of being at the monastery for the vigil with the nuns, Mother Natalia and everyone. And a lot of you don't know this. This is a little insight into the Amish, because they live in a high Amish concentrated place. Mm-hmm. So it's Good Friday. It's 11 p.m. This even happened at 1 a.m. I don't know what the Amish are up to at 1 a.m., but a carriage comes by. Clip, clop, clip, clop. We're all in silence. We're in vigil prayer. We're staying up all night for Good Friday. Mother Natalia, Maddie, Father Chris, Sister Rose, and there was another guy named Daniel. And so we're all keeping vigil. And the Amish, when they have their like romance nights, you know, somebody's courting, they'll allow them, the boy and the girl, the man and the woman, to go off on a little carriage ride. But they have like sound systems in the carriage.
Yeah.
And they'll be playing rap. Mm-hmm. This has happened a few times in the past 3 years when I was with the nuns. So it's like 11 p.m. and it's also happened around 1 a.m. We're sitting there praying and we hear clip, clop, clip, clop, and we hear and then,
they probably hear it pretty good too. There's not a lot of big car noise in the way. You know, they probably get a good sound out of it.
Oh, it's very good. Yeah, you can hear it clearly. Yeah. And it happens, and I look over at Maddie, and of course Mother Natalia looks over and smiles, and then starts. We all start in union with the Amish during the Triduum. It's beautiful. Anyway, objection 2. Larry and Ralph. Back with Ralph. Further, in us those faculties alone know the singular, which receive the species not abstracted from the material conditions. Species not abstracted. So the paper, that's what you're touching in particular. The abstraction is the universal that happens in our hearts and minds all the time, every day. We abstract to universals. But in God, things are in the highest degree abstracted from all materiality. Therefore, God does not know singular things. Objection 3, Shimon.
Poppy's here.
Poppy! Oh, I had a great little chat with Poppy. It was so good to walk into the Dumb Ox Club and just see Poppy down there looking swank.
Swank indeed.
You guys don't know Poppy, but he is. What's his channel? We need to.
I should know this.
Yeah, we should.
And I'm blanking so hardcore.
Well,
the Poppy and Chulo show. That's what they do.
Is it really the Poppy and Chulo show?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because I just watched it. I haven't looked at the thing.
Yeah.
How do you spell Poppy?
PAPI.
PAPI, the Papi and Chulo Show.
He says hola, amigo.
Yeah, he's my Rose of Lima bro.
Mm.
Good to see you, Papi. Papi was looking swank.
Right, he was.
All right. Further, all knowledge comes about through the medium of some likeness, but the likeness of singular things, is so far as they are singular, does not seem to be in God. For the principle of singularity is matter, malchus, which, since it is in potentiality only, is altogether unlike God, who is pure act. Therefore, God cannot know singular things. That's interesting. That's interesting. It's not a good question, but it's an informed question. Not everybody could ask that question. What he's saying is all material things are in potentiality. You have to remember that. Like you see, I guess I'll keep using the paper. You see the paper.
Again, paper.
Okay, we see this goofy hat. And you think to yourself, hat. Your mind abstracts to the universal of hatness. I have a hat. These are two very different hats, but your mind abstracts to hattiness. You know that it has the character of hat. We could start messing with this and put water on it and cut it up and start.
You could smush it.
You could smush it. You could turn it into different shapes. Eventually, it would lose the character of hattiness. But the material, that's the matter, which is making this up, would still be the same. It's like we talked about the donkey that sadly passed away at the beginning of Lent. Remember that long ago? Dallas, the donkey was lost. When the donkey passed away, that donkey's materiality starts moving into soil and becomes soil, and then soon it will turn into grass. But it's the same matter. So matter is always in potentiality. That's a big realization to have in Thomas's 5 ways. That's a crucial point. All matter is constantly in potentiality. You think of the hat as solid. You think of my hat as solid. That's a hat. But that's only because you're in a space-time brain. You're in human space-time brain. This is actually used to be something else. And then one day it will move into being something else altogether. It won't be a hat. This hat is not going to last forever. The houses of the people in Rome that they lived in and they thought of as solid, the vessels that they used, the cups and the vases that they used to pour the water in and drink, they thought of that as cup. But now it's just sand, washed away in the time, in the sea of time and forgotten. But that matter is always the same. And so matter is always in potentiality and also in act. This matter that's creating my hat is in a state of act. It's being a hat right now, but it's also in potentiality, just like the donkey Dallas's body, just like this paper, just like your hat, just like you who are watching this. You are in potentiality to be worm food. And it will happen one day, unless you happen to be here during the rapture. But then you're still in potentiality to be a spiritual body.
Right.
So everything is in act and potentiality. So what Shimon is saying here is God is not that way. He is not in potentiality. He is pure act. Therefore, how can he know things that are in potentiality? That's what he's trying to say. All right, let's hear what
How does that matter and potentiality thing work? Like when we have our nice resurrected bodies, and
that's a whole other big question.
I know, that's why.
And I think, and that I'm going to address that in my novel as far as being in the same room. Right. Because I've very much noticed, I had a conversation with some very well-educated theologians during the octave, and I've noticed that people have a tendency to speak of the spiritual body as still material body.
Right.
There's a lot I have to say about that, but thank you for mentioning it. I'm going to try to put it in my book to just push the ball forward a little, maybe have some more questions about that.
Do you have like a cool title? I don't think you've ever told me the title of this book.
Of my novel?
Yeah.
It's called The Things of This Earth.
You have told me that, but I forgot. But now we know.
The Things of This Earth. That's the first title I ever came up with, and I've never thought to change it. I think that's going to be the title, The Things of This Earth. Because Jacob, the lead character, is into Nietzsche. And then in scripture, it talks about do not give yourself over to the things of this earth, but be heavenly minded. But there's a way in which you also need to be involved in the things of this earth. And so the interplay of how you interact with the things of this earth so that they become heavenly, but not leaving the things of this earth, which comes back to the whole divorce thing that I talked about with the woke world and with Platonism and how Christianity is incarnational and how we don't want to divorce between Cater and Malchus. We don't want to divorce between the speculative and the practical. Okay. On the contrary, it is written, Proverbs 16:2, all the ways of man are open to his eyes. That's our argument from authority. Let's hear what he has to say in the respondio. I answer that. God knows singular things. Okay, we're done.
That's it. Figure it out.
Very good, Thomas. Let's go back to drinking on the deck.
You know what? That's a good point.
I hope that squeak was heard. There's something about that cork squeak.
Yeah. See if I can do it again. See.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Something. Maybe it came through. We'll see.
I don't know when that last trumpet sounds.
It might just be like that.
I don't know if it'll be before or after, but we might. I answer that. God knows singular things. For all perfections found in creatures pre-exist in God in a higher way, as is clear from the foregoing, question 4, article 2. Now, to know singular things is part of our perfection. Remember what we mean by perfection. The wood, making the bonfire, you look at it and you say that's perfect. Our perfection is not perfection. Our perfection is what are the constituent elements that come together to create or to manifest our nature as human and our suppositum as individual parts of this universal. So that's what our perfection is. So just remember that. It's been a little while. Perfection, the way he's using that word is not perfection, but that which comes to be what it is supposed to be in the most appropriate and functional way. All right. Hence, God must know singular things. Even the philosopher considers it incongruous that anything known by us should be unknown to God. And thus, against, Empedocles, he argues in a De Anima and the Metaphysics that God would be most ignorant if he did not know discord. God's on Discord. We can use that. We can use that for promo. Get on Discord. We don't have a Discord, do we?
No.
We don't need one yet.
No.
Or at all.
We have locals.
We have locals. We're about to turn the page. Remind me.
I will.
Okay. Now, the perfections which are divided among inferior beings exist simply and unitedly in God. Hence, although by one faculty we know the universal and immaterial, and by another we know singular and material things, nevertheless God knows both by a simple intellect. We have an intellect and a will, and we also have bodies. So that's what he's talking about when he says faculty.
We have a question.
What? Let me complete this thought.
Yeah.
And we go. So one faculty is our material nature, which my eyes are closed. I feel the paper. I hear the sound. I feel the weight. That's one faculty. And then boom, it immediately enters into another faculty, which is my intellect, which abstracts. The agent intellect abstracts the universal principle. So that's what he's meaning when he says we have two faculties. God doesn't have two faculties, but he knows these things in his inner essence, which is what he's going to go on to say. Oh, it's a long answer. What's the question?
We'll do the question turning the page, and that's good.
Okay. Now, some, wishing to show how this can be, said that God knows singular things by universal causes. For nothing exists in any singular thing that does not arise from some universal cause. They give the example of an astrologer who knows all the universal movements of the heavens and can thence foretell all eclipses that are to come. So some, I guess, have said that God knows particulars because he has this universal mathematical type knowledge, so he can just kind of prognosticate by mathematics what's going to happen. Thomas is, of course, going to want to say no. He knows it in a more intimate way. I was going to say that smells so good. What is that tobacco?
Balkan.
Balkan.
My Balkan that I always say is really good. And everyone's like, when I give it to them and they have it, they're like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I smoke it and they're like, wow, what is that? That's great. And then and I give it to them blind. Like, this is amazing. And I said, it's the Balkan. And they say, oh. Okay.
I might have to retry that because I had some of that Balkan during the Hermitage time.
Yeah.
And I've started to enjoy it. Not as much as Nightcap.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You weren't there. Did you hear what Jacob's assessment of Nightcap was?
This is off. Yeah, sure. No, I did not.
Did I tell you?
No.
Jacob's assessment of Nightcap. We all agreed this was like Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And one day a week we can smoke in Andrew's house. This is like house rules. We live together in this house and we have certain house rules. One is silence until 9:30. So it was beautiful. This morning I wake up and I see Kevin. Of course, I always want to talk to Kevin, but it was before 9:30. So we didn't even wave. I just kind of glanced at him. He was making coffee. He glanced up and I just did this and walked out.
Kind of like a wave.
A little, yeah. And then walked out and Jacob was on the front porch. No speaking. It's beautiful. We keep silence. But also one of the things is we don't smoke in the house except on Sunday. So we're all sitting there and we're talking about Nightcap and how much we love it. And then Jacob goes, I do. It's really good except one thing. And we're all in silence waiting. You know, it's kind of a mellow vibe. Everyone's staring out the window at things. Everyone's in their own space but chatting. And he says, it seems more of an afternoon smoke. Turning of the Page is sponsored by craigkinsey.locals.com. Go to craigkinsey.locals.com. You can sign up. Doesn't cost money yet. But you can give us money, apparently. And yeah. And
we like money, man.
Well, that's the only thing that's going to keep this Beaver Galleon going. We have limited resources in the hold of this ship.
Yeah.
The hard tack is going to run out. The beans are going to run out. The rum is going to run out.
Oh, yeah.
And then we die. So eventually we got to get some fundage.
Yeah. For Larry. Gotta do it for Larry.
That needs to be our do it for Larry.
You'd have like a sad Larry Beaver thing going on.
Yeah.
Where he's
I like
his hat in his hand and he's looking cute at the camera.
Yeah, do it for Larry.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I like that.
So this question,
okay,
Poppy asked, said, random question.
Okay.
Which cigar do you think Aquinas would have preferred on this weekend's recent Steubenville Cigar Bar grand open reveal for the Pints of Aquinas cigar or the Chesterton cigar, and why?
I did not have the pints yet. I had the Chestertons, so I can't really say. But I will say this. I think Thomas will go big cigar. Thomas doesn't enter a room like, oh, I'll just have a little, you know. Thomas enters a room.
They're good Churchill-sized cigars. You know, they're good. I'll say that I've had both, had many of both, because I'm a little scavenger. And so a lot of these people came into town and they weren't big smokers, so they'd leave half cigars. And, you know, I'm not a germaphobe, so I went and, you know, picked a few up. But I had a lot of both. I think also Aquinas is so very humble, so he would enjoy the Chesterton cigar deeply. Also, Chesterton cigar was enormously better. Not that the Pints of Aquinas cigar was bad. It was very, very good. But the Chesterton cigar was just out of this world. Really, really good.
You know what? I should leave here and go smoke a pint cigar. I think I will do that. In honor of being back on the galleon. Because I didn't have one. And give some money to the crew. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like when you guys give us money, you got to understand something here. This is you know, the blood pumps through the heart and goes down to different things and it circulates and goes to the foot. You know what I mean? It's like different thing. This money circulates. I mean, you know,
if you can get to the foot, you're gonna lose that foot, dude.
Well, I eat really healthy and have no fear of diabetes.
Well, I was just saying, like, if the flow of blood, i.e., money.
I see what you're saying. Guys, don't let us lose our foot. All right, let's go. This, however, is not enough. For singular things from universal causes act attain to certain forms and powers which, however they may be joined together, are not individualized except by individual matter. Hence, he who knows Socrates because he is white, or because he is the son of Sophroniscus. Come on, dude. Did they really say that every time?
Sophroniscus.
Did they really say that every time? Or because of something of that kind, something of that kind would not know him so far as he is particular man. Hence, according to the aforesaid mode, God would not know singular things in their singularity. Again, Thomas being Christian and having the revelation of Christ, and that this whole shooting match was about to bring us into love relationship and Trinitarian knowledge. Thomas is always going to be, even though he loves Aristotle, even though he respects Plato, he's always going to be bringing things back to the love relationship. And you cannot have a love relationship with Joe, and the particular Joe, unless you know the particular. So Thomas is never going to say that God can't know particulars. Okay. On the other hand, and also I feel like we're toggling back and forth between the words know. Like we talked about this before. In Hebrew, it's yada, I think, is like data point know, and then da'at or da'as, depending on if you're Ashkenazi or Sephardic. Das is know, like Adam knew his wife Eve. So there's a toggling back and forth between these two ways of knowing. That can be a little confusing in my mind, but this is a flyover and we don't need to worry about it. Just God does know particulars. On the other hand, others have said that God knows singular things by the application of universal causes to particular effects, but this will not hold. This aggression will not stand. Forasmuch as no one can apply a thing to another unless he first knows that thing. Hence, the said application cannot be the reason of knowing the particular, for it presupposes the knowledge of singular things. If you know that there's going to be an eclipse at a certain time, you have to know the particular things that are constituent to the rationalization, to the figuring it out. Okay, therefore, it must be said otherwise, that since God is the cause of things by his knowledge, as stated above, his knowledge, he's the cause of the knowledge. His knowledge extends as far as his causality extends. Hence, as the active power of God extends not only to forms, which are the source of universality, but also to matter, as we shall further prove on question 44. He's doing his big long call again. Yeah. Babe Ruth, he's doing his Babe Ruth thing. The knowledge of God must extend to singular things, which are individualized by matter. For, since he knows things other than himself by his essence as being the likeness of things, or as their active principle, his essence must be the sufficing principle of knowing all things made by him, not only in the universal, but also in the singular. The same would apply to the knowledge of the artificer, if he were productive of the whole thing, and not only of the form. The artificer would be like Michelangelo or the architect. He knows the form house, but he also knows each individual and constituent element of the house that he worked on, nail by nail, plane by plane, work by work. He knows it all. And God is constantly forming us and holding us together in being. And he knows the house, which is our soul, intimately, knows it more so than we do. And that knowledge is the act. The knowledge is deep within him, in his essence. And it's manifesting in our intellects. He's manifesting his deep knowledge of us. So Thomas is just wanting to stress. It's like the evangelical preacher wanting to stress how much God loves you, but he's doing it in a philosophical, intellectual way. God is very intimately involved in your life and your being. He loves you and he's holding you together in being in love in his essence. Reply to objection 1. Our intellect extracts the intelligible species from the individualized principles. Hence, the intelligible species in our intellect cannot be the likeness of the individual species. And on that account, our intellect does not know the singular. But the intelligible species in the divine intellect, which is the essence of God, is immaterial not by abstraction, but of itself, being the principle of all the principles which enter into the composition of things, whether principles of the species or principles of the individual. Hence, by it, God knows not only universal but also singular things. So we come to things from the outside in. We touch this, and then we abstract to a universal, which is paper or weight or form or whatever. We abstract to these universal principles. So we're going up the ladder of divine ascent through touching Malchus, the bottom of the matter, which is material, the material world. But God is moving. God is existing in himself, and Thomas is referring to God from the other direction. He is talking about everything that is in this world is springing forth from the divine essence, and God knows it completely. We also talked about the oak tree and the acorn, except that metaphor limps because God would be the acorn, God's essence, and everything is coming forth from it. But the way, and it's good to go into it just to understand the way the metaphor limps helps you understand it better. If you cut open an acorn, all you're going to see is kind of a sheen and a simple bland matter. You're not going to see a little bitty oak tree folded up in there. It's not like origami or something that it's a different sort of formation. So that's in the way in which the metaphor limps. But the essence of the oak tree is within that acorn being moved through space-time and birthing out in space-time to manifest what was always inside of it. So just think of the acorn as being conscious, and the acorn knows all that is within itself, but it would have to know each individual element as it moves forward outside of itself to be like God. And God does have that kind of knowledge. God has knowledge of, just like it's good to mix metaphors. Jews do it all the time in like Western thought, or especially in like writing an essay. Your professor may not like you to use mixed metaphors, but you have to understand all the facets of reality because it's too complex. But just think of the artificer, the carpenter, knowing each individual movement that he had to take to make that house. He had to touch each brick. You've probably seen those videos of people making houses where they make the bricks of clay. They take the clay and stick it in the frame, and then it dries. They take each piece of straw, and as they put them together, they're with it. They're present to it the whole time. God is both. In his essence, he knows every individual movement that is necessary to bring about your heart, your mind, and your life, and how they all fit together. He's very intimately involved. He is the first cause. He is the efficient cause, holding it all together and being existentially. And he knows you in each individual element, already in his essence from all eternity. But we don't come to know that way. We've come to know from the outside, working back into universals. Reply to objection 2. Although as regards the species and the divine intellect, its being has no material conditions like the images received in the imagination and sense, yet its power extends to both immaterial and material things. Whatever, dude. Reply to, I think we've already hit the point. It's just cleaning up. He's cleaning up shop. Reply to objection 3. Although matter as regards its potential proceeds from likeness to God, yet even insofar as it has being in this wise, nice turn of phrase, in this wise, it retains a certain likeness to the divine being. I'm just interested. What was that question? Further, all knowledge comes about through. Oh, that's the one I said that was interesting. For the principle of singularity is matter, which since it is in potentiality only. Although matter as regards its potentiality proceeds from likeness to God, yet even insofar as it has being in this wise, it retains a certain likeness to the divine being. That's very common philosophical language, a certain likeness. Even matter that is in potentiality still has a certain likeness to the divine being. Tohu vavohu, the beginning of all creation, when from the beginning of the Big Bang, it's just in undifferentiated matter. It still has a likeness to the divine being in some kind of way. All right, how much time did this take?
49 minutes.
Whoa, not too bad being back on the first time.
Not bad. A little dilation happening.
Yeah. Yep. All right, I think I'm going to go smoke a Pints with Aquinas cigar. Can you order them online?
I hear you can.
Guys, what do you go to?
That.
Huh?
You can't say where, but you can.
Okay. You can order, look it up, figure it out. You're educated people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all straw. But straw is used to set the wood afire and warm the house of contemplation and elevate your mind to God. Thanks for being back with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Also, I'm going to do that thing where, because our video's getting cut off, this might show up in the video. We'll see. Because the video's getting cut off, I'm going to...
Oh, you're going to tinker with it? You're going to try to figure it out?
Well, no, I'm just going to let more time go by and then hit the button. So hopefully you don't get cut off or anything. I could get cut off right now.